July 18th, 2011, and my husband Pat and I and my neighbor were taking a early morning bike ride because it was really humid out. We were up at our farmhouse, and you could just see a really angry sky coming towards us. I mean, the clouds were moving really fast, and so we made a quick decision to get back on our bikes and bike home really fast. We figured it was 8 miles, we could do it really quickly and we could beat the storm. We were going down a hill, and I remember feeling a few drops of rain, and I remember Pat saying to me, "Be careful," and that's all I remembered then. One of the trees snapped. It was an oak tree, and it fell on me. I was kind of at the wrong place at the wrong time. It hit my arm, luckily actually, because a second later it would have hit my head, and it probably would have been a different ending. But it hit my arm and broke it in several places and flipped me over my handlebars, and then I landed on my face. I've got a pin here and two pins in my upper arm. The next day, I think they worked on my face and had about 80 stitches in me. Split my forehead here and my lip, and broke my orbital bone around my eye. My eye was just totally shut. I looked really awful. I was in the trauma unit for 5 days, and then they thankfully moved me home. And it was about 9 months of rehab. But I'm a good healer, and my face looks pretty much back to normal. But all in all, I'm a really lucky person.
I wasn't raised by my parents. They've always had a way of boarding me out. Well, my parents never brought me up. I never lived with my parents. Well, my mother was a career woman. She liked what she was doing. And apparently, she probably didn't want a lot of children. Now, I lived with Ma and Pa Wagner, whom I adored. Well, I never knew I had any relatives. I never knew enough to even ask. I didn't know anything about my family. My mom and dad never talked about them. When all the kids would go home for Christmas, Easter, whatever, I was so embarrassed because I was the only one left in school that I would hide so I wouldn't have to say goodbye to the kids. But I could hear them. You know, they'd say, "Sister, we're looking for Virginia. Where's Virginia Kearns? Virginia," and I could hear the kids down the hall calling for me. And I would hide because I found it so embarrassing because all the other children had parents that picked them up and took them for the summer, would take them for Christmas vacation, but mine never did. Even though my parents never raised me, I would never do that to my children. I wouldn't even do it to my parents. You know, they needed me. My mother was too proud probably to ask, and my dad was too sick, that I wouldn't do that. I just couldn't do it. It all worked out in the end pretty good.
And there was a lot of heavy drinking, so they even drank while they were at work. Eventually, both of my parents, who were very nice people, became alcoholic. So when I was growing up, there was lots of heavy drinking in my house. They were drunk every night when I grew up. So there were 7 of us, and we were all about 2 years apart. And every night when I came home after school, my parents would start drinking heavily, and there was fights every night. So our house was pretty crazy. You know, oftentimes police would come over to our house. A lot of times there'd be fights. Starting at age 12, we all had to support ourselves, so we all had to get jobs. And so by being busy with work and being busy with school, we all had to pay for our own clothes, our own books, our own school, everything. All 7 of us went to college. All 7 of us supported ourselves all the way through. All 7 of us have really good careers. So you can survive a really stressful childhood. And I have a family of my own. I have 2 kids. I've been married for 32 years. I was determined to make sure that what happened to me wouldn't happen to my kids and wouldn't happen to my family.
When a gust of wind came